I have actually asked clients this question. And the thing that keeps on coming up is that our team are relentless problem solvers. They really can't help themselves. If we're working with a project manager, our aim is to make them look good. If they look good, if their project is a success, then that's our success too. We're all on a journey. It's so important to set that destination. We then move on to, well, what does matter? And it's really the passion that matters to us.
Welcome to this latest Career Agent podcast with a twist. This episode is called Employer Success. So the agenda of this podcast is to look at how to support a rapidly growing business or team from a people perspective. And within that, you've got how to build and maintain a high-performing culture, because it's my view that there's no point in scaling a team, scaling a business, if you lose the fun out of it, if you lose what you had. A business grows because you've got something and you don't want to lose that. So we're going to talk about how to maintain and build that high-performing culture, but also how to hire the right staff in order to that fit within that culture. And then lastly, what those new staff can bring to the business that you didn't have before. So quick thing, my name is Rory Laughton-Scott. I am the founder of The Career Agent. We are recruitment experts helping companies do what I just said, building their business through hiring the right people and retaining staff, that kind of thing. And then we're also career coaches, helping people build careers that make them really happy. And today she'll hate this, but I'm speaking to the wonderfully talented Sarah Edge, who is sales and marketing lead and also head of people development at Nuffield Technologies and their sister business, Rugged Data. Say hello, Sarah.
Hello.
Well done. So Nuffield Technologies and Rugged Data work with large defence organisations and also field services companies on software development. And they've grown from 2 people 5 or 6 years ago to now 13 members of staff over the last 5 years. Now, I'm speaking to Sarah for 5 reasons. Firstly, about her wonderful career path, going from social work to HR to learning development to sales and marketing. Secondly, 4 years ago, she joined this family business to work with her husband and sister-in-law, which sounds a bit mad. Thirdly, it's a fast-growing business, and we'll talk about how it's grown. Fourthly, Sarah has been instrumental in building that high-performing culture, and we'll talk about how she did that and how you watching as MDs or heads of companies, heads of teams can build that culture. And lastly, we'll talk about hiring the right people, including Sarah when she was hired. So, Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
To start off with your career, could you please tell us about your strangest job you've ever had? I assume it's not this one.
Well, at times I would definitely say this one. I think the strangest job that I've ever had was probably when I was at university. I worked in a call centre for a short time, and I was phoning people at dinner time, asking them questions about their bank. Now, that was market research, but obviously I faced a lot of rejection and a lot of suspicion, and I had a lot of people putting the phone down on me. One even actually said to me at one point, "Oh, I hope your mum is proud of you."
Indeed. Well, that's what a lovely thing to say. Okay, and would you mind taking us through your wonderful career journey, as I mentioned, just a little bit of detail about why you made what decisions you did to start, go through HR, hotels to Merlin, RNLI. Just take us through the journey.
Sure. So the World Economic Forum says that people have an average of 12 jobs and between 5 and 7 careers in their lifetime. And I am definitely making my way through those. So I studied social policy at university, and I planned to go into social work. And after uni, I started in support work, and then started as a housing officer. And I was just helping people to access and then stay in their accommodation. And during this time, I was also studying counselling, but I found that I didn't love it. And that is not a career that you can go into if you don't love it.
Right.
Now, one evening at my counselling course, I picked up a pen that was left in the classroom. And it was a pen that had the CIPD logo on it. And at the time, I didn't know what the CIPD logo was. And for some reason, I decided to have a look at what it was. And I found it was then the professional body for HR. Now, I don't believe in fate. I don't really believe in signs. However, if I did, this would definitely be one, because this got me starting to think about a career in HR, because I felt that I had the transferable skills from my previous career to bring in. So I was extremely lucky that a previous boss gave me a chance with no HR experience, and I got into HR in hotels. And after being there for a while, I then moved to HR in a call center and tech company. And what I realized during that time was that in the whole kind of sphere of HR, my favorite part was learning and development and talent development. So helping people to realize their potential. I didn't love employee relations so much, the employment law side of things, but I really, really, really loved learning and development. And after a few years, I spotted an opportunity for a learning and development manager at Merlin, which was covering all of Europe. It was a huge opportunity for me. I really enjoyed the role, but after a bit of time in that role, I found that the travel was too much for me. I'm quite a home focused character, and so that was too much. But I then found an opportunity at the RNLI, working with leaders at all levels. And that was a really special part of my career. And I loved being part of that journey. Being at an organization with such an important cause was absolutely brilliant. It was also my first time working in a learning and development team, and I loved being part of that team. Now, one aspect of all of the jobs that I've enjoyed has been employee engagement and employer branding, and how to make sure that the company really is who they say they are, and that they don't just say that. Also, how to bring a team along on a journey. And I've really loved this part of the job. And I always said, if I hadn't have gone into HR or social work, I'd have loved to have tried marketing. Now, after I had children, I reevaluated. And alongside this, my family, my husband and sister-in-law had been building their family business, which is a software and hardware company. And it was getting to the point where they needed some marketing support. Now, the services that Nuffield Technologies provide is so niche, and they're a team of amazing engineers who know what they do inside out, but they really needed some help translating this to be easily understandable and communicating this to customers. So after a huge amount of discussion about how this could work, I decided to take the leap and start on my next career.
Okay, interesting. So, I mean, it feels like a bit of a meteoric rise to you being in the room with lots of leaders and, very senior people at RNLI, which is a massive, massive organization. So that's pretty cool. But also, you can also see how your role now in sales and marketing, but also you're helping the team a lot at Nuffield and build that culture. It's combined all the things that you talked about. So you found a good balance. I know we're talking about careers now, and that's not the plan for this podcast, but it looks like you found a good balance. Is that about right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the thing about the role that I have now, is that I can see, looking back, that all of the different roles that I've had have really led to this point. Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
But you've also been brave enough to try completely new things. And there's a little bit about, you did a master's whilst you were on maternity leave, which is bonkers, isn't it? But there's a bit about being brave to try things and try new things, because so many of us get stuck in one career path and go, that'll do. So if you had to give a tip just to people about just go for it, I mean, what's been your secret to reinventing yourself so many times?
I Good question. I think just taking that chance, and you never really know where it's going to lead. And sometimes I think one of the questions that I asked myself at various points when I've thought, I'm ready for the next thing, is what's more scary? Is it carrying on and this being it forever? Or is it attempting to make that leap and seeing what happens? And I think often for me, the thought that continuing down a path that I don't feel is quite right for me is probably more frightening than attempting something new.
Before we move on to building the right culture with the right people, but also helping those people to empowering them to do their best and changing their job roles to make them happier, which then helps the business. Let's just, if we could hear a little bit about Nuffield Technologies and the sister company Rugged Data, and what the companies do and how they help their customers.
Nuffield Technologies has been around since about 2001, originally set up by Ray, who was repairing handheld data capture devices. Over time, the capabilities of the companies grew and expanded, and now Nuffield develops industrial data capture software, mostly defence logistics software. We also do other things too. We are also a Zebra Technologies business partner, so we sell rugged mobile phones and tablets and printers and accessories. Rugged Data is a slightly different thing. Rugged Data is a SaaS platform for field services and facilities management companies.
Okay, so let's so the big thing for me is what I have seen as an external supplier working with you guys is that no problem is unsolvable, and you do it at speed and with such passion, and you really, really want to help your customers. So that's, although I've probably just answered it for you, my next question is why do clients keep coming back to you?
So I have actually asked clients this question. And the thing that keeps on coming up is that our team are relentless problem solvers. They really can't help themselves. So no matter what the challenge is, they always find a way. And that has become entrenched in our core values, because that really is a reflection of our team.
Yeah.
So this has then meant that we have a reputation with our customers as a safe pair of hands. So somebody that they can trust, somebody that they can turn to whenever they have a problem. We genuinely want to help people. So for example, if we're working with a project manager, our aim is to make them look good. If they look good, if their project is a success, then that's our success too. So that's really important to us.
I also know that Rugged Data has just launched some new features, so I just wondered who's your ideal customer for those features.
So the people that Rugged Data can really help are field services companies who are looking for ways to make their businesses and their operations more efficient. So they might be using paper to make notes out on a job, and then the admin team might be typing those up back in the office, or they might be using clunky software that's not quite fit for purpose. It's not customizable enough. It doesn't quite fit their processes. We can help those businesses. We are an absolutely ideal solution for the kinds of businesses that are wanting to free up more time so that they can be more efficient and they can focus on the things that are important to them. So, growing their businesses.
Brilliant. Love it. So helping them focus on what they really, on their core, what they should be doing, and reduce admin, which, gives them more time, and time is money, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So moving on to fostering a sort of high performing culture, because as I said, the company had 2 people in it and it now has 13. And the danger is that growth for growth's sake takes the fun out of it. It can even get rid of your USPs and what you were good at in the first place. And I think you guys have done a huge amount of work into making sure that you've got the right culture in place, that people are happy, people are working hard, everyone's focused on the same goals. And so we've talked about this before, that you've used various different techniques to get there, including setting out your values, this people analyzer tool. So where would you like to start as the first, I think it's value setting, isn't it? Is that the key place where you started?
I would say probably that one of the biggest kind of influences and the one of the greatest tools that we have used that help us to set that culture is a tool called Traction, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is a bit of a mouthful. And this is a this is a system that we were introduced to by another local business in our area that has found it really helpful. And this is essentially a way of kind of structuring the business and the way that we work in a very intentional way, I would say. And one of the 6 dimensions of, 6 factors that you really need to have in place in order to move forward with Traction, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I'll first start with values, is making sure that you have those core values and that they are understood and that they are demonstrated by all.
Yeah.
And so the way that we and Traction sets out quite a prescriptive way of setting what those core values are, and that involves identifying people within your business, the values that they are already demonstrating. So this isn't aspirational values. This is the how things really are in your business, and working out, well, what is it about that person? If we had that particular value and bucket loads, we would absolutely 100% be a success. So it's about identifying those incredible values already in the business and drawing on those and pulling on those. And so, and I mentioned this earlier on, that the relentless problem solving. So one of our values that is clearly demonstrated in our business is that we find a way. It's absolutely ingrained in our approach. Anytime anybody comes to us with a problem, or even a vague sniff of a problem, then our team cannot help but to try and solve it, to leap on it and try and solve it. And another value that was really clear in our business is we keep learning. And we have a number of members of our team who are just learning junkies. They just can't, they just, any opportunity to learn, and they are all over it. And that is so important to us as a business.
So so what I really, really like about what you're saying is that a lot of people see values as like, yeah, it's a nice thing. It's an HR thing, or it's aspirational. Yeah, we can put, we care about our customers and that kind of thing. But what you're saying is this is actually looking internal and going, what values have we already got that's working, that customers are really happy with, and that's making us successful and competitive? Let's double down on those, let's celebrate them, and then try and make sure that the next step, of course, from then is how do we get everyone to have those values that we've already got, and how do we hire people that have those values as well? And I think this is like every company should be thinking in this way, because where you are being successful needs to be like, but companies tend to focus on what are we not doing well instead of what are we doing well and let's double down on it. So what you said was pretty cool. So let's go. So then once you've got these values written down, so you find a way, you keep learning. You've also got, we focus on people and we do the right thing. How did you take that and then make sure that people within the business come up to that level?
Yeah. So I think, like you say, it's very easy for values to become a paperwork exercise, and, for them not to become ingrained. And it just, if we'd have kind of just gone, ta-da, here you go, here's some values, it's just not meaningful, is it? I'm going to unveil your values for us. And it just doesn't work like that. So what we did, and in fact, and this is part of Traction and the entrepreneurial operating system, is introducing the values via storytelling. And so not just saying and putting a poster up on the wall, right, these are your values, live by them. Instead of doing that, it's about making sure that you are repeating this all the time, that this becomes very much part of the language that you're using, but telling stories around this. So, when you're introducing them, making sure that you're referring to specific examples, calling out specific people in the business for examples of when they have demonstrated those values, because that's what this is about. It's real life behavior, it's not theoretical. So making sure that we also have, as part of our HR management system, we use a system called Employment Hero, and on that tool, and it is a tool that we use, we have shout outs which are aligned to our values. So every time anyone in the business spots anybody demonstrating the core value, they can raise a shout out, and this is shared with the whole business. So everybody knows about what people have done that have demonstrated those values. So that's, rewarding for those values. That's really important. Speaking about them, shouting out when those behaviours and those values are recognised. So another thing that we do is we also hire to those values as well. So, we have a 3-stage recruitment process, and one of those stages is a competency-based interview that is purely based around our values. So what we're looking for is, when people have demonstrated those values in the past, what happened? And just having a discussion around those values with people that we're potentially looking to bring into the fold, bring into the family, is really important to us. Do they get those values? Do they understand them? Are they able to talk about them? Because that's really important to us.
I think a lot of leadership, a lot of founders, MDs, CEOs, and people generally think that improving your culture means going for beers on a Friday or putting free fruit in the office. And those things are good, but what you're really getting into is how to understand where your culture is and how to drive it towards where you're trying to get it to, which is all based around what you're doing well for your clients. So I absolutely love that. So, but also what I'd love to talk about is the benefits to the employees of being like this, and how your staff, you've helped your staff to increase what they're learning, to get more skills, or even to move to a different role. I know there's someone who's gone from being a tester to a software developer, which is one hell of a step. So how do you help them? Is that part of this traction process, or is this something else?
So that is we actually implemented a process around this prior to implementing traction, and that was that we were thinking about what we want our benefits to be and how we want to support our teams, and we decided to base our benefits around professional development and well-being, and so personal development. Now, in terms of the professional development, we've always kind of naturally recruited people who are really passionate about learning. And, that probably is the key thing in this, because if somebody isn't really passionate about learning, you can take a horse to water, so to speak, but you can't force it to drink. And so, it's that kind of, we're building on something that already exists. We're not pushing people to do something that they don't want to do. So we are always encouraging our team to learn new skills, and we will always support this. So we have a number of our team who are we're supporting with professional qualifications, but this is also skills-based learning and on-the-job-based learning. And so, for example, we implemented a few years ago, we implemented a goal setting and review program, which is every quarter we set our team goals, which are based on the business goals. The team actually set their goals themselves. They come with they know what the business goals are, and they come with ideas of what they want to do in terms of their own professional development and how that fits in with where we're going as a business. And our bonus scheme is also linked to achieving these goals as well. So, we really are rewarding for people learning new skills, people taking that responsibility and developing their skills.
What I hear about great leadership is getting people to have a say in what their job is going to be. So if you have to make a big decision, at least speak to your team about it and let them have an opinion before you make the decision, and listen to them and explain, if you're not going to go with their thoughts, then why is that? And I feel like you're taking this to the next level again and again, of setting the company goals and values, and then asking people to set their own goals as part of that, and to communicate where they want to take their career as well. And this is leading to really, really good retention and happy staff, I assume. But have you been able to measure that? I mean, how I'd love to hear the other side of it from an employee perspective, how happy people are and if they're enjoying these processes.
Yeah, so I think something that's really important here is that people know why they're doing what they're doing. And so, and this is for us, implementing Traction and the entrepreneurial operating system has been really helpful because, one of the big parts of Traction is setting goals, setting rocks, they're called, in the system, and re-establishing those, reviewing those, and changing and moving on to the next ones every 90 days. But it's not just about doing that at business level, it's also about doing this with the team as well. So making sure that they know where we're going, so that and giving them the tools to be able to set their own and self-determine their own goals, because they understand where the business is going and they understand their role in this as well. And I think that is really, really important, that communication, that understanding what the objective is, because without that, you're kind of just running around. And so I think that has been, and the feedback that we've had has been that has been really helpful to the team in understanding where we're going as a business. And because that means that they understand their place in it. And everybody wants to understand their place in the world, don't they? So I think that's been really, really important for the team.
That's the culture area, is hiring the right people, and how do you get the right person in the right seat? Can we have a discussion about that? Because companies hate hiring people. They find it very difficult. It's hugely stressful. If you get it wrong, it's hugely expensive. So I'd love to hear about first how you strategically take a step back and go, what does this role need in terms of skills, also personality fit, but also what you look for when you're hiring and how you interview to make sure that people, the right person comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the first things that we probably do is that we work with a great recruiter, yourself, Rory, to understand actually what do we need from this role, and I think being asked the right questions to really refine what it is for us, what do we really need this person to be doing and what really matters. But I also think it's important to look at what doesn't matter. And so, for us, we feel that qualifications aren't the be all and end all. So unless it's absolutely required for a compliance reason in a particular role, then we don't ask for qualifications. We don't ask for a number of years experience. Unless it's absolutely vital for the role, we don't ask that somebody can work full-time hours. We set a minimum number of hours for the role, and then kind of put it out there, because we understand that people have caring responsibilities. People have situations going on in their lives which mean that they can't work full-time, and so we understand that. So unless it's absolutely necessary, we don't ask for that. So we then move on to, well, what does matter? And it's really the passion that matters to us. And I'll give you an example of that, because this has really stuck out in my head, that we received an application recently for a week of work experience from a school student. And we receive a lot of these types of applications, but this one really stuck out in my mind, because this one, instead of being a short CV, that this person had created an entire portfolio of the work that they have already done. Being age 16, 17, this person has apps in the Play Store. They have really worked hard to create projects, and thinking about I won't go into detail about what he was doing, but he had thought about what his friends needed in order to prepare for their exams, and created an app to help them. So he was really thinking about that, what the user needs, and his software development skills. He'd put a lot of time into, and a lot of passion into furthering himself. And so it's that kind of thing that that we're looking for. This person absolutely was living and breathing software development, and that is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love what you're saying. I work with employers that say, well, they have to have this specific score at A level, and I'm like, or at GCSE, and you go, well, yes, you want them to have these things, but people go through different stages of their life, and ultimately you want to know what's their passion today. And there's an example I from another employer that we worked with, was a lady that had been a maths teacher her whole career, but she'd done a data analyst course, and she was applying to data analyst jobs, and of course she was being rejected from all of them. But this particular employer interviewed her, realized that part of being a data analyst is being a great presenter and being able to explain complex information simply. Of course, being a teacher, you've got those transferable skills. Every other employer would say no, and this chap gave her a chance, and she's doing brilliantly well. It's all about passion and thinking laterally about something. And I'm sure you guys thought, normally we can't have a work experience person on. We don't have the time for that. But this person really stood out, and I just love it when companies employ for passion and think slightly laterally, because people have talent that maybe their life hasn't formed a perfect career path all the way through, but they found their way to them. So it's great that you've been open to that person. And on a more lighter note, I'd love to talk about how you make it work in a family business. So the business was set up by Ray, your husband Tom's dad. Your sister-in-law Helen also works in the business, and now you have come in as well. So how the hell do you make all that work as a family business?
So that was challenging at first, and I would probably say that's been one of the biggest challenges of my career. My notice ended with the RNLI on the second week of the first lockdown. So I started a new job in a new industry with a new team, trapped in my house with one of my new bosses and an 18-month baby with no childcare. And, I know many people were also in that situation. And that was very tricky. And I have to admit, I hold my hands up. I did rage quit many times in those first few weeks, probably months, and I did really question my decision. I was not sure that I had made the right leap, but as time went on, and my confidence grew, and I felt more part of the team, and I understood the business more. I think Tom, my husband, and I, over time, have worked out how to work together. For example, things like understanding, am I saying something to you as my husband because I'm venting about work, or am I raising this to you as one of the owners of the company, and I want you to, I need you to take action on this. And that's quite a difficult line to walk. And it's something that we've found that we have to be very explicit with. And, the confines of the conversation need to be in place. I think it's also really important to not let work take over every family event as well. So you have to have really clear boundaries. So, for example, a big no-no for us is talking about work at Christmas dinner. We do not talk about work at Christmas dinner.
Well, so I would say the fact that you found this balance is testament to your sort of ludicrously high emotional intelligence to be able to draw mental lines. We're talking about this, we're not going to talk about that, or we're going to talk about this from a different angle at this point of the day. And what I would say is that, ultimately, Nuffield and Rugged Data have scaled their business successfully, bringing you in and your people skills, your leadership and development skills. I love what you're saying about traction, and I think these tools can be incredibly useful. But for me, it's the practical application of these tools and adapting them slightly to suit you that's meant that you've managed to build this model we're talking about, where the staff understand the values, work towards it, they have a say in it, all of these type of things, where you've become the sort of head of people within the business. And I know that everyone else is helping, I'm not talking them down. I'm saying that you guys between you have achieved this to then drive quality and drive innovation and happy staff and then happy clients. So it's been brilliant to talk to you about all these things today. And I think I just rounded that off pretty well. So thanks very much for joining the podcast and joining the first Employer Success podcast. And I hope you've enjoyed it, or maybe we'll think you've enjoyed it in days to come.
Thank you very much, Rory. It has been a pleasure.